You know, people in this country seem to have very little understanding of how an actual police state actually comes about. It comes about not through simply a military coup or something like that. It comes about in increments by getting a certain amount of acquiescence by the general population to get on board with all this, and to acquiesce to surveillance tactics and to their own imprisonment, so to speak. And it works in increments. It doesn't come about all of a sudden. It never comes about all of a sudden. It didn't happen like this in 1933 Germany and beyond that, and it didn't happen like that in Chile, for that matter, either. So I'd like to share with you an essay concerning not only the legislation that I just mentioned, H.R. 1955, the Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorism Act, which actually passed into law. But I'd also like to share with you an essay, a very pertinent essay by Glenn Greenwald, who, and I'll give him credit for this, is still speaking out on the salon.com website. Greenwald is a constitutional lawyer, and he has studied constitutional law, and he continues to speak out for basically for the Constitution. So here are some excerpts which were also printed in today's Star Tribune, which is a paper in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I'd like to read some excerpts from this. I don't mean to violate copyright law or anything else. I want to get this information out there simply for educational purposes of our citizens. So I'm not going to be posting this on the political and news segment on YouTube. I will post it on the education, under the education category. So please look it up there if you can't find it later. So the article says, today's Star Tribune added that the raids were specifically aided by informants planted into protest groups. Back in May, Marcy Wheeler noted that the Minneapolis Joint Terrorist Task Force, an interagency group of federal, state, and local law enforcement led by the FBI, was actively recruiting Minneapolis residents to serve as plants to infiltrate vegan groups and other left-wing activist groups and report back to the task force about what they were doing. There seems to be little doubt that this is a domestic spying attempt by the federal government that led to the excessive and truly despicable home assaults of the police during this RNC convention. So here we have a massive assault led by massive federal government law enforcement agencies on left-wing dissidents and protesters who have committed no acts of violence or illegality whatsoever, preceded by months-long espionage efforts to track what they do. And as extraordinary as this is, no attention from the national media and little outcry from anyone. And it's not difficult to see why. As the recent overhaul of the 30-year-old FISA legislation law illustrated, preceded by the endless expansion of surveillance state powers, justified first by the war on drugs and then the war on terror, we've essentially decided that we want our government to spy on us without limits. There is literally nothing the police power can do or cannot do that will cause much protest from the political or mass media that you see today, and also from the citizens at large. Beyond that, there is a widespread sense that the targets of these raids deserve what they have been getting, even if nothing that they've done is even remotely illegal. We love to proclaim how much we cherish our freedoms in the abstract, but we despise those who actually exercise that freedom. The Constitution, right in the very first article of amendments, protects free speech and free assembly precisely because those liberties are central to a healthy republic. But we've decided that anyone who would actually express truly dissident views or do anything other than sit meekly and quietly in their homes are dirty troublemakers up to no good. And it's therefore probably for the best if our government keeps them in check, spies on them, and even gets a little rough with them. This is going to be a two-part video. Thanks for listening.